So I remember my parents saying to me, so we don't have to stay for the jump off, can you make Casper knock one of the poles? And I feel like no horsey parent has ever said that to a horsey child before. Have you ever done affiliated show jumping? I just turned around to him and was like, yeah, I've jumped fillers before. And I think he was just a bit taken aback. Before today's podcast episode starts, I have some really exciting news that we have a new title sponsor of the podcast, which is Red Post Equestrian. So Red Post is an equestrian and country store that not only sell all over the UK, but also all over the globe. So, for example, if you're my US audience and you're over in the US and you really want to get your hands on the new Lemure Spring-Summer collection, you can head over to redpostequestrian.co.uk and order it from there. Red Post is such an incredible shop. If you ever get the chance to go there, it is absolutely huge. They have a huge warehouse as well to, have all their stock. They also have a really lovely cafe. So if you're ever in Devon or going on holiday sort of to the West Country, would recommend making a little stop off there as well if you ever get to visit the shop in real life. But anyway, thank you so much again to Red Post Equestrian for sponsoring today's podcast, and let's begin. Hello everybody and welcome back to my podcast, Esme's Country Life. This is actually going to be a part 2 of an episode that I did the other week, and that was all about growing up with non-equestrian parents. Now, a lot of that looking back on the podcast was actually about kind of my riding story, what it was like kind of getting into horses with non-equestrian parents. But today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about kind of being a horse rider in the equestrian community, but with parents who don't know anything about horses. And it's safe to say there have been some really funny stories along the way, especially as I think the best way I can describe it is, if any of you have watched Harry Potter, I feel like I'm a bit of a muggle, or I come from like a non-magical family, but in a horse sense. So starting off from where we left off was when I got my first pony, Mickey. Now, a year of owning Mickey, I had so much fun. We basically did lots of hacking together because hacking was my favourite thing, hacking and jumping. So my dad actually very kindly made some jumps for us. We didn't have an arena at the stage. We didn't actually even have stables. We didn't even have houses on the land. The land was very different to how you all see it now. We've definitely kind of built everything up over the years after lots of hard work. So on the field beforehand, the land was actually really cheap because, obviously it was sold to my parents a long, long time ago when everything was a little bit cheaper. But also because the land was kind of like useless. It used to be all ancient woodland, and then back in the maybe 70s, it was all cut down to be used for farming land. But because we're on clay is not the best soil to farm with, because in the winter it's pretty much a bog underwater, the muddiest mud you can think of, and then as soon as summer comes around, it is concrete, it is rock solid, not good for ploughing, not good for growing crops, all that kind of thing. So it was just kind of like this grassy field with donkeys in. There were 2 barns. There was, I think there was an old pole barn, and then we have the barn that we used to call my dad's workshop, because in there he would do cars up and that kind of thing, mechanic-y, basically a big man shed. And that's actually, the big man shed was where I used to put all of my tack. So I didn't even have a tack room back in the day. It was literally a chair, which not even a saddle stand, didn't even splash out on a saddle stand. It was an old deck chair, or some sort of the fold up kind of wooden chairs. It was one of them. We put the saddle on top of it, which probably was not good for Mickey's saddle, and then we just put the bridle over the top as well. That's one of the things that I don't know if anybody else has equestrian icks or equestrian things that just make them feel a little bit ew. I have that when I look at back in the day. I would only undo, because I was lazy, but also I didn't know this was really bad for your saddle and things like that. I would only undo the girth on one side, so my saddle would always have the girth attached on one side. Then the sweaty girth would not clean, would just, put over the saddle. How bad is that? No, that cringes me out. I can't. Now I'm so good at cleaning my girth afterwards. Could not imagine putting a dirty, sweaty, muddy girth just on top of my saddle. No, girl, what were you doing? At least I did clean his bit off. Like, that is like one thing that I'm very like, you have to wash your bit off after every ride kind of thing. But yeah, at least I did that. So yeah, when I got my first tack room, I was over the moon, as you can imagine. That was recently as well. That I think I actually vlogged that. That goes to show, like, I say how like recent. I started YouTube back in 2015, 2016, but still, like, having, you know, an actual tack room and not just like part of the garage, that was very exciting. Anyway, back to what the kind of stables were like before. So one half of the shed that was my dad's workshop was actually like the donkey's stable. So there was like a little concrete area, and then we had this pole barn that I think actually fell down or blew over in a storm. It blew over in a storm, I'm pretty sure, when I was like a toddler. So I can kind of remember it. Like, I've obviously seen pictures of it. It's one of those things where it's like, can I actually remember that? Or have I just seen photos of it and my brain is like, yeah, you remember what it used to be like. Actually, no, I do remember it a bit. I do, because I remember climbing up to the top of this hay barn, being at the top on top of all these hay bales and thinking like I was the queen of the world. I could see like all, like everywhere. Like, I was really high up and I was like, yes. This is cool. This is fun. Like, I was definitely a climber as a child. We had this apple tree in our garden. My mum always loves to tell the stories. I feel like every parent has like not an embarrassing story, but like a story of you as a child that they love to tell everyone. And my mum's was that before I'd even had my first birthday, I climbed up this apple tree because, like, to be fair, it wasn't like an apple tree like upright. It was a little bit like horizontal in the sense that it had kind of like fallen down but carried on growing like sideways, so it was more of like a ramp. But still, before I turned 1, I was climbing up that apple tree. We were just in the garden, turned around for 5 seconds and boom, I was in the tree. And I like shouted to her, Mum, I stuck apple tree. And she was like, dang, my girl is yeah. And she was like, oh my goodness, my baby is in a tree. That is not good. Anyway, after that, back to what I was saying, the old pole barn, when it blew down, we had a new barn built, and that was a green corrugated iron one, which, if you watch some of my very old vlogs, you might spot that there are some bum prints within this corrugated iron barn, and that's where my lone pony Bradley, which I talked about in the previous episode, he actually had sweet itch, so he would rub his bum against the barn and cause like all these crinkles and things. But yeah, that barn is no longer, because we then, you know, back in, well, obviously before that, 2016, we finished building our houses in 2017, or it's not even my house anymore. I can't say it's my house anymore. It's my parents' house. My parents' house and my grandparents' house. We got permission to knock down the barns. Actually, no, we got permission to convert the barns into houses, and then we got permission to knock down the barns and build like prettier houses further away from like where the land's a little bit wetter and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's the story behind that. But yeah, before, so we had the workshop and we had the corrugated iron barn that had like tractors in, lots of old wood, because our old house was very kind of like cold, so we'd have lots of firewood from the woods, hay, just basically a big old storage dumping ground. And then like Mickey didn't even have like a proper stable. It was a we bought a mobile field shelter because like planning permission and things here in the UK, it's quite tricky. So he had a little mobile field shelter on the concrete, and when we got Mickey, my parents did buy that. So there we go. But no, very, very grateful that, number one, I was able to keep the horses at home, and number two, just to have a horse myself. So no, very, very lucky. But yeah, we didn't have any, like an arena back then at all. So that's actually where we've done a full-on loop. We're back to where we were. So my dad very kindly, out of old rubber tyres, and we actually had some old, like lots of definitely reduce, reuse and recycle over here. We were being good for the planet. We had, electricity pylons in like the countryside, instead of being on like metal ones, like the smaller ones, or maybe even telecommunication, like telephone wires. They're on like these big, not even big, they're on just basically a big old, why do I keep saying big? Telegraph poles, that's what I'm talking about, a wooden telegraph pole. We had some old ones of those that we would use as kind of like jumps in the field. We also just had some old like just post and rail posts that we'd use as like skinny jumps, that kind of thing. And I remember one summer like being so excited because I bought navy and baby blue paint, and I painted these jumps in that, and I was like, wow, I have my own jumps, this is so cool. Yeah, I feel like, if you're ever bored in the summer, do a DIY jump, paint it, have some good fun. That took me hours, but as a child I was very happy. That was a great summer. But yeah, I had like we made like a little jumping course and things, so I was doing that with Mickey, probably jumping like a foot, 2 foot maybe, so like 50, 60 centimetres, 40, 50 centimetres, that kind of thing. And Mickey was like the best like first pony in the sense, as I said before, he was very bomb-proof, very good with children. He was cheeky, like his nickname was Taking the Mick, because Mickey's Mickey. He, didn't make things easy for me all the time. Had a little buck in him here and there, but nothing like malicious, just like a little whoop, little cheeky little whoop. Anyway, but he was great in the sense that like he was great at just everything low level, was a good all-rounder pony. Like we used to do mounted games and things, and he loved that. But I feel like in the horse world there are just so many different rules and things that if you don't, like, people just expect you to know them, which I definitely didn't, my parents didn't. So we're now going to go on to some funnier stories. So after a year of owning Mickey, at the time I could only have lessons in an arena at my instructor's house down the road, which when it came to the winter, all we could really do was hacking because the fields were so muddy, like I couldn't jump in there or ride in them. So that I could, but to be fair, when you're at school and it's winter, you can only really, unless you have like floodlighting or an indoor, you can only really like ride twice a week, maybe on like a Friday afternoon or something. But that was a little bit more tricky, so getting hours in riding was a little bit more difficult. So after a year of owning Mickey, my parents came to the decision that we kind of needed to get a trailer so we could get him out and about. I really wanted to start Pony Club because a lot of my friends at school were doing Pony Club, and I was like, asked them very kindly if I could do that. And one of my mum's like best friends, she did Pony Club with her child, so my mum was like, okay, I'm gonna have a friend there, I'm gonna have someone that I can talk to that's not like, well, it is horsey, but we can talk about non-horsey stuff together, so it's all good, because my mum like didn't really have a clue about a lot of horsey things. So my dad actually he sold his car so he could buy me my horse trailer, which little me was very, very grateful. You don't get many dads out there that would sell their car so their daughter could have a horse trailer. So this was it was a third-hand horse trailer. Obviously I had to make sure that I had a good base, because like horror stories of wooden base trailers where they go rotten and the horse gets a hoof through, oh my goodness, nightmare fuel there. So it was a safe trailer. My dad doesn't know much about horses, but he knows a lot about trailers and cars. So he was definitely delegated the job of taking me to Pony Club, because my mum does not like driving the trailer. I think there was one Pony Club trip where I have so many horror stories of going to Pony Club with my mum in the trailer. There was once where it was with Casper. We were going to a cross-country course that we'd never been to before, and sat-nav, I think she was so worried about missing this turning because she'd looked at it on Google Maps and all that kind of stuff, and she's like, oh, this must be the turning. She turned too early and we went through a McDonald's drive-through. And I remember it was funny times. And then another time, I think she jackknifed the trailer as well and made a hole in our 4x4 that we don't have anymore because we don't have a trailer, but we don't have the 4x4 anymore. But for ages, we had we just went to like Whole Foods or some sort of car shop and bought like the cheapest sticker that you could find and put it over the hole. So nobody could see that there was a hole in this car. So yeah, there are going to be more interesting stories like that coming up. Just you wait. But trailer experiences were not the best. So my dad actually kind of became a Pony Club dad because he enjoyed being with the horses more than my mum. My mum, it's not that she hates horses, she's just not a horsey person. She's fine with the little boys, like she's fine with Duke and Mickey, but I think she finds Casper and Joey just a little bit big and intimidating. Like, that she's not a natural horse person, if that makes sense. She's not a natural twill. My dad, on the other hand, like, he loves them. He sees them as like big dogs, which they are, to be honest. So a lot of my pony club trips were with my dad, especially if my dad would be at home looking after me and my brother on Wednesdays and on Fridays. So if pony club ever fell on those days, like, it was my dad taking me. So my dad kind of became like the honorary pony club dad. So there'd be like all these, middle-aged women talking about middle-aged women things, and then there'd just be like my dad there at pony club, like, chilling. So a very grateful dad. Thank you very much for taking me to pony club. He's just done a little thumbs up. But anyway, we had this sort of running joke that whenever we went to pony club, we would get told off for something, because between the two of us, like, kind of like coming from a non-horsey background, me like growing up with horses, but anyway, as you heard before the story, there would always be something that we would either do wrong or we would get told off for. So for example, we were always told like, oh, we weren't parked in the correct place. Actually, my dad, the pony club mums softened up and sweetened up to my dad, because they were like, if anyone had any trouble with their car, with their like lorry, with like reversing, if anything was stuck in mud, my dad was the man. He was the man that would sort them out of trouble. Needed to jumpstart a car with some leads, he had them. Like, so, at first, there was some frosty women that were a little bit not so friendly, but it was all good in the end. But yeah, we'd always get told off for something. I can't even remember what these things would be now. One of them was like, we'd parked in the wrong place, or parked on the grass when there was no other place for us to park, or like there was Mickey wasn't tied up properly, which was probably a good thing to be called out for, because could have injured himself with the way he was tied. Like, he wasn't tied up with a quick release knot, he was tied up with literally just like a normal knot, which probably isn't the best. Like being tied to a hay net when you're not supposed to, a hay net being tied to the back of the trailer. When they changed that rule, you weren't allowed to do that anymore. Just like little things like that. But actually, I've just remembered another funny story of us getting told off of one of the, like, not horrific, but as a 14-year-old girl, I remember this like hitting me a little bit. It was when I had it was when I was riding Casper mainly, so I was 14 at the time. Had a bit of a tricky time with him being a young, fresh green horse, and I was at this pony club rally on a Friday afternoon. Now, Friday afternoon pony club rallies with Casper were very chilled. It was like a male instructor that couldn't care less how you were presented, kind of thing. It was also like an awkward stage for me being 14, because that was the sort of stage where I kind of like started having periods and things, and my pony club actually, I don't think they changed the rules. They have changed the rules now, because I know someone that's still in pony club, so you can wear black, navy, like, or maybe even grey, like dark coloured, like presentable plain neutral breeches for pony club. Back then you had to wear beige, or you had to wear like white or like canary yellow, or basically like the really impractical colours, which is not good for washing. And at pony club camp they would allow you to wear like black breeches or black jumpers, because it was a bit more practical. Not everyone had 5 pairs of breeches to wear every single day for camp, which is understandable. So for like these Friday afternoon show jumping rallies, I would go with my black breeches on, like maybe like a pony club like polo top. It was a really hot day as well, so I wasn't wearing my long sleeve one. We had like long sleeve white ones, and I had a rule, I don't know if this is still a thing, that you had to wear long sleeve for jumping for safety reasons. So I was there, short sleeve top, black breeches. My dad had put Casper's saddle in the car very kindly, because it was like a military operation to get here on time. I'd get off the school bus, literally go from the school bus to jumping in, like loading Casper, jumping in the car, and like we would be off. Sometimes I'd even text my dad if we'd like got stuck in traffic, being like, look, we're 5 minutes away, can you load Casper for me? Like, I can literally just get in the car, I'll get changed there, that kind of thing. So it was kind of like, a lot of the time my dad would very kindly pack for me, like give me a snack in the car, that kind of thing. So he would just grab any old pony club t-shirt, jumpers, like whatever saddle pad Casper had on his saddle, that was the one that was being taken, kind of thing. Like, he didn't care if it was a white one or a neutral one or a pony club one. So we were there not looking as presentable as we could. Like, I didn't have a hairnet, forgot my hairnet, but, you know, we were there, and that was the most important thing. And I actually rode really well that day. I think Casper had a blue saddle pad on as well, so and then there was one of my friends that had, like, perfectly turned out pony, like all her fancy pony club stuff on, and like next to her we looked like an absolute shambles. And normally this was a very chilled pony club evening. Like, I went to it very regularly. I was one of the regular gals, and my instructor was so happy with me afterwards. He was like, that is like one of the best you've ridden ever, especially as the week before. I think I fell off. There was these planks or this water jump that Casper absolutely hated, could not get him over it. We'd like walked him over it, that kind of thing, and very slowly started building up his confidence. The next week he jumped it first time, no problem, and like just honestly was so proud of my riding, like one of the best sessions I had. And little did I know that the next lesson one of my friends was riding it was one of the pony club instructors or the DCs. I don't want to specify who it was, but somebody who was high up in the pony club's horse, and she was there, and she likes everything to be very prim and proper, to be looking your smartest, to be looking your best, like representing the pony club, that kind of thing. And this is just like a chilled Friday afternoon. I wasn't expecting her to be there. And at the end of my lesson, she came up to me, and the first thing I thought was, because I was so buzzing, I was so excited about how well my lesson had gone, she came up to me and I thought, oh, she's going to like say like, oh, well done for riding so well, that kind of thing. No, she came up to me and she just said, Esme, the way you are dressed is not representing the pony club well. You know, maybe if you, I think it was something along I can't remember exactly, but it was something along the lines of, maybe if you tidy yourself up, your riding will tidy up as well, or something. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have just been burned by a middle-aged woman shouting at a 14-year-old child. Like she didn't shout, but she just said it in a very like unkind kind of like, you know, when like a teacher takes you to the corner and they're like, can I have a word? And you're just like, oh no, this isn't good. They're going to tell me off, but like not tell me off, but you're like, oh, this is, yeah. It was that kind of situation. And I just remember being taken aback a little bit. I was like, oh my goodness, this is like Friday afternoon chilled show jumping with like my instructor kind of thing. Like, and I've just kind of been violated. So yeah, there we go. That was one of the times, well, I've been told off a lot of times. Like, not for doing anything naughty. Like, I was never a naughty child. Like, there were people at my pony club who would, you know, go out and win all the competitions, be very well presented, but at pony club camp they wouldn't sleep. They would be escaping out of their dorms, they'd be going in the boys' rooms, they'd be, you know, wild childs, and they would, you know, that I would say was more of naughty. Like, me not wearing like the right coloured saddle pad, ooh, someone tell me off. But anyway, I got told off probably not for wearing the right stuff quite a few times. I remember, oh no, it doesn't make me cringe, but I just feel so bad for little me. Also, another sort of rally that I used to do back in the day with Mickey now, I used to do, this was one of my favourite days ever. It was Wednesday pony club rallies at like, when we did junior camp, there was this like big field and we would go there every Wednesday. I don't know if it was every Wednesday, or maybe it was like once. In the summer, I think it was every Wednesday, actually. It was my favourite thing ever because we would do like an hour of badging. Now, if you do pony club, you'll know what badging is. So basically, it's a bit like, you know, in Brownies or the Scouts or Girl Guiding, you do badges, but pony club, so it was like kind of horsey. I got so many badges that it got to the stage where they would run out of things to do because they wanted to make stable management fun for kids. Like, if you just be like, oh yeah, we're doing a lesson about, you know, horse worms, you'd be like, oh, it's, you know, a bit boring. Or like, we're doing a lesson about, I don't know. So for the kids, they'd try and make it fun. So I absolutely love this. This is sort of like primary school age. And it got to the stage where they kind of ran out of badges because me and my friends had done them all. Literally, I think I've kind of shown it in videos, but I still have my pony club jumper, full on badges down both sleeves. I was dripping. I was there. I felt like because I always felt like an imposter in the horse world. I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I was a proper horse person. But me there with my pony club badges on, I felt like, oh yeah, I have been in pony club for years. I've got all these badges. I am a professional. I know my stuff. I felt very proud of my badges. They still mean a lot to me because I look at it and I just think of all the memories and happy times of being at pony club. But So I had all these badges, and they kind of ran out of ideas of what to do for the badges because we did like quite a lot of them. So they started doing quite random ones. So we did, actually some of them were really useful and very good. We did like a fire safety one, so that was like fire safety around the yard, that kind of thing, which is very important. The worming badge is probably my favourite just because it's got a worm on with little googly eyes. It just looks so funny. Obviously there's like the more basic ones which everyone's kind of done. Like there's the feeding one, the loading one, the riding in traffic one, the points of the horse, different types of breeds of ponies. There was like a countryside badge, that was quite fun. There was a charity badge, we did like a bake sale. Lots of other little cute ones too. I could be here all day naming all the badges that I have, to be honest. But so we used to do badges on a Wednesday, and then like after doing like a 45 minutes or an hour of badges, you'd have like an hour's lesson. And I really enjoyed that. It was really chilled. Like you'd do like a bit of jumping, but then you'd also learn about other things when it came to riding and flat work, but then make it really fun. I really enjoyed it. And then afterwards they'd always have like a burger and chip van, so you knew that was our Wednesday night dinner with Dad. It was great. And then my brother would like come, he would sit along, like he'd either like read a magazine or a book or have his DS, and he was quite happy. He was like just sitting in the countryside in the sunshine with his burger, having a great time. So thank you again, Max, for being dragged along to all of my horsey things. I really appreciate it. But Wednesday rallies were my favourite, and because they were in the summer, you didn't need to wear like a shirt and a tie. Obviously you'd have to wear your cream breeches or your cream jumpers, and you just wear like a normal t-shirt kind of thing. Or I'd always wear like my white t-shirt because I always thought the white collar looked nice with my green Pony Club jumper on with my badges. Anyway, then I remember my first winter rally, and my brain just went, rally? That means, I wear my Pony Club jumper with my badges on. And no, that's what I found out for some reason. In winter rallies, this might have changed again. So don't take my word on this. If you're, going to Pony Club and you need to Pony Club, and you just ask what you need to wear, because, there wasn't like WhatsApp groups back in the day. You couldn't just be like, oh, hey, Thingy's mum, do you know what we're supposed to be wearing? It was, you had to like bring someone up, like, and bringing someone up's a bit more effort, like. Anyway, we turned up in what I thought was what I was supposed to wear. So I was there with all my badges on my jumper, and everyone was there full on hacking jackets or like show jackets, shirts, ties, their Pony Club brooch with the like felt underneath for what tests they'd done. I hadn't done any tests at that stage, so I definitely felt very left out. Also, everyone was there with their ponies plaited, immaculate. I was there with Mickey, not plaited, probably had a poo stain on his bum, and had a jumper on, not my hacking jacket. So I felt very underdressed, and I was like, oh no, we've messed up here. I'm going to get told off. But luckily, I did look a bit ridiculous because I had like a white polo top on with a hacking jacket on top because one of the boys had a spare one that they'd outgrown or something, so I wore that. And I just remember being like, oh goodness, I am an embarrassment. Everybody here knows what to do, and their parents have been coming to Pony Club for years and are all friends from doing Pony Club, and I'm here like, I don't know what I'm doing. But we did stable management for, I think, like my D+ or something, and then we did like a little practice ride, that kind of thing. Like, it was really good. Like, I had fun, but I just remember being there feeling very imposter syndrome, like I don't belong here, I'm not wearing the right stuff, and I felt very out of place. And yeah, it's not a nice feeling. I remember my first Pony Club rally, everyone wearing their Pony Club stuff, and I was there like in my blue hat silk and my matching blue t-shirt, because I feel like matchy wasn't a thing back then. I don't know if I kind of made it a thing. I don't want to say that because it's kind of, well, it's always kind of been a thing because of cross-country colours. Like, going to badminton or watching it on the TV, you would see, or people doing cross-country, like, you'd see everyone in the matching colours, and I was like, oh my goodness, that looks so cool, I want to do that. But I didn't really have much horsey clothes actually growing up. Like, as a kid, my parents were like, wow, this is too overpriced. So when I would go through like the sale rail, if something was on the sale rail, I was like, can I get this? And Mum was like, it's on sale. Yeah, you can get it. But a lot of the time I just had like t-shirts from like Millets, or I don't know, just like normal tops at places. Actually, no, that's a lie. I think I had 2 really nice Jules polo tops for riding, and I loved them. I wore them to death. I had one that was in like a teal blue with like a pink stripe on, and then the other was like a sagey green with a pink stripe as well. But I think the pink stripe had like flowers on, so it's really pretty. But I wore those to death. I wore those every single day, all the time. So there we go. But a lot of the time I'd just wear like a normal t-shirt, but I'd always like try and buy a t-shirt or try and get a hat silk that would match one of the t-shirts I had. I think I had like 2 hat silks, and I'd like change them over. Maybe I think I had 3. I had 3 in the end, but for a while I had 2. One was lilac. It was like a purpley, lilac-y kind of colour, and white with white hearts on. White and purple kind of interchanged. And then the other was baby blue with navy hearts on as well. So, and then later on I did get a hot pink one because I was like, I am that girl. But there we go. They were kind of like my riding outfits back in the day. So a lot of the time it was just like a normal t-shirt, and I'd try and buy a hat silk that would match it. Actually, a lot of my clothes were hand-me-downs. A lot of my coats were hand-me-downs. I had this hand-me-down like millets coat that was in a teal blue, and I remember being so excited when I got handed it down from like our family friends because it was teal blue and it matched like a lot of the blue stuff I had for Mickey. That was a great day. So yeah, that was what I'd normally wear for riding when I eventually got my own riding hat and boots. I remember getting my first helmet that was like a skull cap so I could put different hat silks on. That was one of the best days ever as well. A very great moment. I just remember wanting to wear it like around the house like a little weirdo because I was like, oh my goodness, I have my own helmet and it's got hat silk on. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, that was Pony Club. There was some interesting, funny memories. I'm trying to think of some other things where things have definitely gone wrong, and I've just remembered. Okay, so don't get me wrong, my parents, very supportive parents, but they were very realistic with life. They knew that I was never going to be an Olympic horse rider. They were like, girl, from like as soon as like, you know, when you're younger and you're like, oh, what do you want to do when you're older? I was like, I just want to do horse riding. And they were like, yeah, but you're not gonna be like they didn't like that. They said it nicely to me. They were like, you do know that like if you do want to do that, it takes a lot of money. So how about instead of thinking that, how about you work really hard at school so you can get a really good job, and then with that good job that you can buy horses. They were like, that's the kind of way that they were like, look, it might take you a while to get really good horses, like kind of thing, but you can do it if you work really hard. So that was kind of their way around it. They're like, look, right now, we cannot afford to get you the best ponies in the world to do really well at competition. And I think at a young age, I kind of, like, I've always been a very competitive person, but I've never been competitive when it comes to horses, because I think from just like a young age in general, I kind of realised, especially when I went to shows, like, a lot of my friends had advantages over me when it came to riding. For example, they had arenas at home, or arenas with floodlights, so when it was dark they could still ride, or when the ground was wet they could still ride. They had parents that were horsies, so a lot of my friends, their parents would ride their ponies for them during the week, so they would be beautifully schooled, well-trained, do everything perfectly at Pony Club or at shows for their children, which I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all. I will probably do that for my children. I would much rather my child has a safe pony that's well-behaved and well-trained than them have one that injures them or sends them to hospital or, you know, makes them lose their confidence when it comes to riding. And if I'm in a position, you know, when I do have kids one day and they want to ride and I have the money to buy them a nice horse, of course I'm going to buy them a nice horse. Obviously they're not going to be spoiled, so I'm going to make sure that they're very grateful. Maybe get them a project pony and be like, look, this is what I was used to, little bucking bronco over here kind of thing. And then they can be like, girl, I'm very appreciative of my very nice horse. But anyway, just I kind of realised from a very young age that a lot of my friends had advantages when it came to competing over me. So for me, I never felt like I was competing against other people when it came to competition. I was very much like, I'm just competing against myself. I want to make sure that I try and do my best and I do better than next time, but it doesn't matter if whatever colour rosette I come home with, or if I don't come home with one at all. As long as I have fun, that's all what matters, and as long as I'm with, you know, my best friend Mickey or my best friend Casper, that's all that matters as well. And I think that was I think the horse world is very good at making you mature, like older, if that makes sense. Like I felt like I felt like I was a very wise 8-year-old, if that makes sense. And I feel like the horse world has teaches you so many lessons about life, about hard work, about people having, there's a lot of people out there that maybe, have nicer horses than me, but I was still, like, I felt very lucky and very privileged to even have my own horse. I still had friends that were back at the riding school that were still riding there, or even had friends that used to ride at the riding school and then their parents could no longer afford to give them lessons anymore. So I knew that I was very lucky, and I was very, very grateful for that. And I feel like you can see a lot of spoilt children maybe in the horse world, where they're so used to getting everything that they want that when they don't, they have like a tantrum or something like that. And I definitely wasn't that at all, and I'm sure my parents can agree with that. But when it came to competition, it never, like, there were so many horsey mums that were so competitive, and I think part of that is probably because they want, I can understand it to an extent that they want their child to do the best, to be the best, because they now have those opportunities that they weren't given maybe when they were younger, to have like the best horse or the best trainer. But also, I feel like that's more off-putting for the child if you push them too much. It needs to be fun, and at the end of the day, a child's a child. Like, I think a lot of people have said to me or asked me, like, or in like Q&As, asked for advice, like, I think this is something you focus on definitely when you're younger, and I had this as well. I felt bad because I was put in groups at Pony Club with kids younger than me, and they were probably only like a year or two younger than me, but when you're a child, that seems like a way, way younger. And then the friends that were my age, they were all competing at a higher level or jumping at a higher level, or were in a better group. And I always felt a little bit sad or disheartened that, I felt like I was below average. I wasn't at the level that I should have been at. But again, I was still very mature in the sense that I knew I was very grateful to even have my own horse. And I think you've got to remember that in life, everyone has different pathways. Some people's pathways are easier than others, and that goes for life in general. And I definitely learned that at a very young age too. So if you do feel bad about that, don't you worry, because a lot of the professional riders that I've spoken to actually started riding a lot later, or didn't even, like Holly Smith, she was saying to me she didn't even like compete until she was 18, I believe. And like my instructor Trevor Breen, he didn't do like horses competitively until like a lot later. Like, he was a university teacher for a while, I'm pretty sure. So, or professor. So it goes to show that, horses is definitely something that if you want to do competitively, or if maybe now's not the time where you can't afford a horse, or it's not for you, it's a sport that anyone can pick up at any age. And I think there's a lot of stigma behind, starting late at riding. A lot of people feel like, it's too late for me now, or that kind of thing. But I know people that have started riding in their 40s and now they absolutely love it. They have their own horse, and it's definitely something, like, even people who maybe have had kids themselves or have had a baby and have had to have time off riding, it doesn't mean that you can get back to where you were. And I was going to say I've had time off riding, not really. I kind of stopped progressing with my riding when I was doing my A-levels or my exams. So I did a lot of competing with Casper for the Pony Club and things until I got to maybe like 16. So around kind of the time when my YouTube started taking off. And I'd say from there, I wouldn't say my riding went down, and maybe it did a little bit because I wasn't riding as much in the sense that I was really focusing on my exams. I didn't do as much like competition, so technically on paper my prime when it came to competing was probably when I was like 15. That's when I probably got my best like show results. Actually, no, that's a lie. I have done some done pretty well in like dressage and things with Joey, but show jumping's my main thing, and that's something I haven't really got back to in a while. But also, yeah, I feel like it's something that you can get back into, and even if you've started late, it doesn't mean, you can't do it. It might take a little bit more hard work, and your thighs might ache a little bit more when you first get back into it, that is for sure. But I think that's one of the things I really want to change about the equestrian world. I don't want it to feel like it's a sport where you have to be born into, or it's a sport where you have to do it from a very young age to be able to do it. I feel like it's an incredible sport that anyone can start at any time if you can. So it's not, you don't have to be a certain age, you don't have to be from a certain family. Just go for it and have fun, and that's the main thing. So that's my little message. But to make things a little bit, I feel like that was a little bit serious there. I felt like we went a little bit deep there. So we're going to go back to a light-hearted story that I remembered of back in my day when competing with Casper. So going back to me, like, enjoying competing, but never being, like, it was never that serious. It'll never be that serious kind of thing. So, my parents, like, they were very supportive. They were very supportive of my academics and my schoolwork as well. So, but they were like, okay, this is something that my daughter really loves. Obviously, she's not going to go and be an Olympic show jumper. We don't need to put pressure on her in that sense. They probably put a bit too little pressure on me, which, you know what, kind of was a good thing, because it made me feel like I was doing it for me. I know a lot of my friends, they had very pushy parents. They felt like they had to do it, or they had to do competing and had to do well. Like, there was, actually, I've heard some horror stories at shows. There was one mum that said to their child, this was in like one of the lower classes when I was volunteering at a show, she said to her child, if you don't canter the whole show jumping course, I'm talking this was like cross poles. This was a cross pole class. She said, if you don't canter the whole course, if you break back to trot, you're going to have time taken away from your iPad. And I was like, girl, you cannot threat a 5-year-old. What is this? I remember also at I think it was a Pony Club Mountain Games competition, somebody saying, if you don't win that race, or like, no, it was the opposite, it was with bribery. They said, if you win that race, I'll buy you a new DS game. And I was like, Mum, did you hear this? I'll go and win my race. Can I get that, please? No, I didn't actually say that. I was actually a little bit horrified that parents are using bribery to make their children win. My parents were just like, have a good time, sweetie, have fun. Also, like, sorry, going back to competing Casper, this is probably one of the most, like, you've grown up with non-horsey parents stories ever. So, my mum and my dad were at the show. I think my grandparents were looking after my brother that day, so I was very lucky that both my parents were there to support me. It was quite a big competition in the sense that I was representing my pony club. I think it was the 80 centimetres show jumping at Fellbridge. And I remember my then saying to me, like, because we were there for ages, there was like a practice round, then there was the real thing, and then there was then there was the jump off. So we were there for quite a while, and I remember my parents being like, okay, we need to like go and pick up Max from the grandparents, and they were like, Esme, if you could like, because they also realised that if our team qualified, we would be going through to the next round, which was miles away. And my parents had a rule: they would take me anywhere in the horse box, or the trailer. They would take me anywhere in the trailer, like they were happy to, as long as it was like an hour or less away. This place was like 5 hours away. They were like, girl, like, this is a little bit too much. Your younger brother isn't going to want to come. Casper's probably not going to want to go in the horse box that long. Like, this is dedication. So I remember my parents saying to me, so we don't have to stay for the jump off, can you make Casper knock one of the poles? And I feel like no horsey parent has ever said that to a horsey child before. It's been like, make sure you go as fast as you can. My parents like, can you just do like a circle so you get 4 faults for crossing your tracks, like something like that. I was like, no. So I went out there like determined me, like, no, I'm going to show them. I'm not going to knock any poles. We actually did go clear. I can't remember if I've told the story in the podcast or not. I feel like I might have told it recently. My friend, who was in because we had to qualify as a team, so we all had to go clear. She knocked a pole, and my mum was like, best result ever. We can go home. My child wasn't one that messed it up. Go. And then my friend was like devastated. She was like, we're the reason we didn't get through. We're the reason we didn't get it win. And then my mum was like hugging her. My mum was like, girl, you are the best. We don't have to drive 5 hours away for the next round. I love you. And it was just funny times. Also, another really funny story. This one is, there's bad and this one is bad. Again, it was at Fellbridge. I don't know what it is. Something about that place. It's just, things go interesting. So, this is another show. Me and my dad went to go and do the course walk. My mum decided to look after Casper. This is the first red flag. Non-horsey mum looking after Casper. I think he'd run out of haylage or something like that, or my mum was like, I'm just going to take him on a little walk. Like, he just seems a little bit restless. So she took him for a walk around the showground. And that's when he bolted. So I was walking back from walking my course with the show jumping, and I heard all these people shouting, loose horse, loose horse, loose horse. And then I was like, you know, that it's like that meme where it's like, whose horse is that? And then I realised, oh no, that is my horse. Casper zooming by. I was like, oh, dearie me, this is not going to go well. My mum ended up, he was like running across the showground. There are some like, I don't know, I haven't been there for ages, so I don't know if it's different now. There are some like field paddocks down this track. Casper went down this track into the field. My mum shut the gate and he was running laps. He was doing his warm up for me. I can't actually remember how we did in that show. I think we probably just had like one pole and then didn't get through to the jump off. That my parents like, we've spent enough time here, let's go home. It was probably something like that. But another funny story where it's always when my mum takes Casper on a walk. Note to self for past Esme, don't let your mum take Casper for a walk at a show. So you can imagine, show day, Casper's beautifully bathed, beautifully clean, go and do my course walk. Mum takes him for a walk. She was like, oh, I'm just going to let him have a little bit of grass in this grassy patch in the car park. That boy, first thing, he is down. He is down on the ground like he is an army cadet, and he is rolling. Grass stains, mud stains everywhere. He is Casper. It was embarrassing. Tried my best to wash him and brush him and groom him, but there was still a bit of a green remulant. That is a tongue twister for someone who's dyslexic. I'm just not going to try. I'm not going to try. Remnants. Is it remnants? Yes. There was a bit of green remnants left to him. So I was there doing my show jumping around, riding a pony who represents the Grinch. And I think we actually did well in that one though. You know, maybe it was a good luck roll. Maybe, you know, take that with some advice. Maybe your pony just needs a good luck roll. But there we go. I feel like that is probably me exposing myself and embarrassing myself enough for one episode. I'm sure I would come up or think of some more embarrassing wait. This one's not even that funny, because I feel like if you're outside the UK, you'll be as clueless as I am. But this story always gets me. So in the Pony Club, when I first started doing the big girl show jumping, it was called the 75 plus centimetres show jumping on a Friday after school. And when I was finally jumping that kind of level on Casper, I was like, oh my goodness, I've made it. I'm with all the senior girls on the show jumping team, that kind of thing. And I remember my first lesson, this guy instructor talking to me, like, because he wanted to, know, because I think we were all kind of new. It was the beginning of, the year kind of thing. It was at the beginning of the year, and he was kind of wanting to, get to know everyone. I think he was maybe, a new instructor. So he was asking all the, kids what age they were, what they were jumping, how long they'd had their horse, general stuff when you have a new instructor. And then he came over to me and he asked me, similar sort of questions. And then he said to me, oh, do you do affiliated show jumping? Now, in the UK, affiliated show jumping is when you're, registered. So your pony is, registered to, I don't know, either BSJA for show jumping, BD for dressage, that kind of stuff, which is British Dressage, British Show Jumping Association, if you didn't know, for my international viewers. So I'd never really heard of this before. I wasn't big into competition back, I'd done a few competitions with Mickey, local shows, but I was new to the show jumping / competition life. So when he asked me this, have you ever done affiliated show jumping? I just turned around to him and was like, yeah, I've jumped fillers before. And I think he was just a bit taken aback. He was like, no. Affiliated show jumping shows. And I was like, yeah, I've jumped fillers at shows. And he was like, no. Have you done any registered competitions? And I was like, no. I was like, I've showy jumped with the Pony Club at a clear round, but that's about it. And he was like, okay, this girl, she's not too bright. This is where we're starting with. We've got a lot to work with. So that now when I think of that, it always makes me chuckle. So yeah, that is when I learnt what affiliated show jumping meant, even though I had jumped fillers. So yeah, we're definitely going to finish it on there because I've exposed myself enough. Please DM me some interesting... Actually, maybe I should do that as a whole podcast topic. I'll have to put a question box, or I'll put something on my story at some stage and you guys can reply to that or message me. Maybe I have to try and make like a podcast email, so maybe you could email me. Like, maybe that's a good idea, because I'd love to hear embarrassing horsey stories from you guys, because hopefully it's not just me that has been through things like this, where it's like, oh no, I've thought of more, but we're really going to have to finish it here because it's going to be way too long. Maybe in the next episode I'll have to add some extra ones in there as like a little bonus. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!